Manx Radio's Update with Lewis Foster.
First of all, good evening. It's Thursday, it's 5 o'clock, and it's time for Update. Half an hour of the latest news from the Isle of Man for the 7th of November. Coming up, Manx Care warns some patients will face increased waiting times this winter. Can the cultivation of medicinal cannabis be balanced against government's climate targets? And we hear from attendees at today's Employment and Skills Fair. All that and more, plus business, weather and sport, and what to watch out for on the roads. Your thoughts welcome to on any of tonight's stories. Text 166 177 or email studio@manxradio.com. First of all, Christian Jones has the headlines for us. Faster my, Christian.
Faster my. Manx Care is warning some patients will face increased waiting times this winter due to a lack of funding for additional staff over the colder months. A number of measures are being put in place to limit the impact during what the Health Service describes as one of the busiest times of the year. Douglas Central MHK Chris Thomas has accused the Chief Minister of being a prisoner inside his own Council of Ministers following his dismissal from his political role within the Department of Health and Social Care. Government stated Mr Thomas should have resigned after backing a vote of no confidence in Alfred Cannon's leadership, arguing he had directly undermined the relationship between the minister and the departmental member. Douglas Council is selling off its Lord Street flats following the completion of the Pill Road development. The block was built in the 1930s and the council says the Pill Road scheme and the ongoing development of flats in Williston means this is the obvious step to take. And an event at the Gaiety tonight is hoping to find out where the Isle of Man is up to with its net zero targets. Government wants to reach it by 2050. In international news, a suspended Labour MP has been charged with assault after appearing to punch a man to the ground in Cheshire. Mike Amesbury says he's cooperating with the police following what he calls a deeply regrettable incident. People with flexible mortgages should be getting a reduction in their monthly payments. The Bank of England has cut interest rates from 5% to 4.75%. And the Kremlin says it's possible that Vladimir Putin could talk to Donald Trump before the next US president enters the White House in January. Foreign policy experts say there could be a change of American policy on Ukraine. Those are the updated news headlines next at 6.
Goramayed. Thank you, Christian Jones, with the headlines there. The weather brought to you now by Manx Glass and Glazing. Overcast with a few outbreaks of drizzle in places, mainly over high ground where it will remain foggy. Light to moderate southeast wind and a minimum temperature of 10 degrees. Overcast again tomorrow with many places mainly dry, just a few outbreaks of drizzle at times. Light to moderate southeast wind and a maximum temperature of 13 degrees. Little change on Saturday, overcast with rain or drizzle at times, then some sunshine possible Sunday afternoon. Sunrise tomorrow morning at 7:34 and sunset tomorrow afternoon at 29 minutes past 4.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
TE Carbon provide new memorial stones, grave renovations, new inscriptions and fire hearths. Visit us at Hope Street, Castletown or at Broadway, Douglas or call 844 440. TE Carbon, here when you need us.
Most builders start with a hammer and saw. Manx Construction start with ideas and imagination. For new build, extension or home office, Manx Construction offer full service from planning to completion. Call Tony on 452 688.
We all need peace of mind. That's where Peace of Mind Manx Will Writing Services can help you. From just £149 plus VAT. Call 671 001 or go to peaceofmind.co.im.
At Bond Fabrics, we're not just a fabric shop. As well as curtains and upholstery and dress and costume fabrics, we've knitting and crocheting wools, made-to-measure curtain and blind service, plus poles and tracks. Visit Strand Street, Douglas, call 611856 or see bondfabrics.im.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
It's coming up to 5:05. Manx Care is warning some patients will face increased waiting times this winter due to a lack of funding for additional staff over the colder months. A number of schemes will be put in place in a bid to limit the impact at what the healthcare provider says is often the busiest 4-month period of the year. Sean Calper reports.
Since Manx Care was established in 2021, it's had funding set aside to ensure extra primary staff can be brought in to cope with the additional workload. However, this won't be the case this year due to the board's need to achieve financial balance. The organisation has put in place a number of schemes to manage the increase in demand, though, such as a pilot of virtual GP services and changes to handovers at the weekend. A pilot pharmacy scheme will see the current minor ailments scheme include 7 new pathways, including shingles, sinusitis and acute ear infections. It will also review the hospital operational pressures escalation level, or OPAL framework, and ensure a daily presence of specialist medicinal consultants on the acute medical unit and emergency department. The lack of additional staff will mean outpatient-based consultants increase their commitment on the wards, which will result in reduced capacity in outpatient clinics, particularly within respiratory medicine.
Sean Calper. The Chief Minister has accused Douglas Central MHK Chris Thomas of directly undermining the relationship between the Department of Health and Social Care's Minister and its political member. Mr Thomas was dismissed from his role in the DHSC after just 2 weeks, after he backed a motion of no confidence in Alfred Cannon's leadership, which government cited as a key reason for the decision. The Douglas Central representative believes the Chief Minister is a, quote, prisoner inside his own Council of Ministers.
I've had a very positive and productive time in the Department of Health and Social Care. Council of Ministers have decided that I can't be positive and productive inside the Department of Health and Social Care, which is what I wanted to do in the national interest, because of the fact that I voted against the Chief Minister. Indeed, I offered myself as a candidate for Chief Minister in the vote of no confidence in Keys a week or so ago.
Isn't he right to oust you if you don't support his administration then?
Well, I'm not a minister. I was always a backbencher serving in the department. I'm an experienced backbencher who has been a minister. There's lots that needs doing in healthcare around the finance, about bringing together the mandate, the operating plan, the budget. There's anger from many of the healthcare professionals towards the management and vice versa, and I'm good at bringing people together. So, yeah, I am disappointed not to be able to serve in the national interest with Mr Cannon. I think Mr Cannon's even, to be fair, is a bit disappointed that I'm not there serving with him, because it's actually the Council of Ministers who've asked me to step down. It's not the Chief Minister on this occasion.
So do you think his hand was forced?
I'll never know, but I read the letter and I look at what's happened, and I think to myself, are the Council of Ministers not just humiliating the Chief Minister at the moment? Because I think that collectively the Council of Ministers have decided this. And I think in the debate back in October, Tynwald, I got the impression that the Chief Minister doesn't really believe as much in the island plan as people like Mr Hooper does, and I think probably the Treasury Minister does, Dr Allinson. So have we not got to a situation now where the Chief Minister is effectively a prisoner of an island plan he doesn't actually agree with?
You're not unfamiliar with being sacked. A previous Chief Minister removed you from Comyn. You were also the DOI Minister in this administration, now departmental member. Are you the problem?
I don't think so. No, what I am is a principled politician who believes in policy.
Douglas Central MHK Chris Thomas speaking to Christian there. Well, the Chief Minister has been contacted for a response on that one. 8 minutes past 5 now. Have you heard this today? Douglas Council is selling off its Lord Street flats following the completion of the Peel Road development. The last tenants were moved from the outdated site in 2022, and the local authority says it will continue to invest in providing modern housing for its tenants. Our local democracy reporter Emma Draper has more details.
Douglas Council says it's hoping for interest from a developer to help regenerate the area, whilst the sale of the flats will be reinvested into future housing projects. The block was built in the 1930s, and the council says the Peel Road scheme and the ongoing development of flats in Wilston mean this is an obvious step to take. Devon Watson, chair of the local authority's housing committee, said the houses were no longer suitable due to a lack of modern facilities such as lift access, parking and secure communal areas. He added that the money from the sale of the flats will be reinvested into future council housing projects and a general maintenance and refurbishment programme. Councillor Watson also said the council is committed to providing quality, efficient and affordable houses for tenants. The Lord Street flats comprised of 56 flats across 4 blocks, Murray House, Hills House, Derby House and Athol House, and are named after the borough wards. The new block on Peel Road has 66 one- and two-bedroom units, which the council says has helped increase the local authority's housing stock. Leader of the council, Claire Wells, says she hopes there will be genuine interest from investors in the site and believes it's an opportunity to regenerate Lower Douglas. She added that the local authority's priority is to provide public sector housing built to the highest standard.
Local democracy reporter Emma Draper speaking there. Funding methods for waste collection and social housing rents are two problems that need to be addressed in Onchan, according to a candidate in the upcoming Commissioner's by-election. Oliver Lockwood is standing for the one vacant seat in the village's upcoming by-election and believes his skills as an actuary could support the budgeting process to ensure promises are delivered.
An interest in local government because of the range of functions the commissioners perform and the impact they have on the local community as a result. I think the key aspect is to be able to bridge differences between conflicting points of view. Usually both parties have a legitimate viewpoint, so it's necessary to say something that bridges the difference. I think a key issue in Onchan has been the fact that they've consistently in recent years recommended not increasing or social housing rents or increasing them by a small amount, whereas the final decision by the DOI has been a substantial increase, 7.5% last year. I think I would be looking to liaise with the DOI to consider how a more transparent method of setting the rents could be set. One aspect was the area around social housing rents, and another was around waste management, for which a public consultation has just closed. And I think regarding that, it seems quite likely to me that there will be a harmonised approach to waste collection introduced across the island, and that although Onchan commissioners have made arguments in favour of retaining waste collection in the hands of local authorities, they have limited influence over the final decision. But I think it's important that if a harmonised approach is introduced, it is funded fairly. So the cost of waste collection per household should be lower in urban areas than in rural areas.
Oliver Lockwood there. The other candidates standing in the by-election are Nigel Dobson, who we heard from yesterday, and Scott Wilson, who we'll hear on the programme tomorrow. That by-election taking place a week today. Now, news from across the water. The Bank of England's cut interest rates from 5% to 4.75%. It's only the second decrease in more than 4 years and follows the UK Chancellor's budget last week, which the bank is warning will contribute to a rise in inflation. Paul Chase is a Manx financial advisor.
It's very good news for borrowers, basically. Not so good for savers, but borrowers, people with mortgages, people that have credit cards and that sort of thing. It's good news for them because the interest rate obviously has come down. It means their repayments will also come down. So if you're on a tracker mortgage, then you'll feel an immediate effect. Your monthly payment will come down, certainly within the next month. If you're on a fixed rate, not so much, I'm afraid. But also, when you come to the end of that fixed rate, it'll mean that hopefully the rates that you can go on to will actually be lower. So, yep, some benefits for us on the Isle of Man.
And what does the Bank of England have to consider then when making these types of cuts? We've heard it's only the second in around 4 years. So what's at play?
Well, I mean, basically, it's largely down to inflation. So as we know, inflation was at a very high level last year and it's been coming down gradually. That's the reason for them putting the interest rates up so much over the last 2 years. Inflation's now seemingly under control, around about the 2% mark, which was the Bank of England's target. And as such, they've been able to start reducing the interest rates. So it's inflationary pressures. Given the rate of the increases over the last 2 years, as I say, the two decreases so far have been welcomed.
Savers, as far as they're concerned, what can they do now? Well,
they can look for alternatives. A lot of them will have hopefully tied up their money for a fixed rate period, which means they'll still benefit from those interest rates for a while further yet. There are still rates available. I was looking for a client yesterday and we can still find rates around about the 4% mark. So my advice would be to grab those whilst they still exist before the rate comes down any further.
Financial advisor Paul Chase speaking to me there. Now, the latest stock market report from Ramsey Crookall. UK and European markets mainly closed higher as investors continued to digest Donald Trump's presidential election win and political upheaval in Germany. Shares on Wall Street scaled record highs, lifting stock markets around the world. Well, the market at the close, the FTSE 100 down 0.32% to 8,140. The DAX up 1.72% to 19,367. A short time ago, the Dow Jones down 0.04% to 43,711. The S&P 500 up 0.63% to 5,966. And the Nasdaq up 1.35% to 19,238. British pound sterling trading at 1.298 US dollars and 1.203 euros. Gold is up 1.38% to 2,695 US dollars, and a barrel of Brent is up 0.14% to $75.11.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
3:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
Oh.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
We'll start on the roads, but just those works in Douglas to be aware of. Until the 21st of January, a section of Groves Road is closed by the NSC for drainage work. Watch out for delays, and bus services will be on a divert there. The bottom end of Summerhill is closed for gas main replacement, and Victoria Road is one way between Stanley Place and Broadway in a southerly direction, that's towards Broadway, for electrical installation works. There's temporary lights as well on Governor's Road near Governor's Bridge and Blackberry Lane to replace the street lighting there. No problems to report over at the airport today, and on the sailings, Manxman is sailing back from Heysham, expected into Douglas just before 6 o'clock. She'll be departing back from the island at 7:45.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
The time now 17 minutes past 5. It's difficult to see how cultivation of medicinal cannabis on the Isle of Man can be balanced against government's climate goals. That's from Chair of the Climate Change Transformation Board, Claire Barber, who's been responding to a written Timor question. Amy Griffiths reports.
Plans to grow medicinal cannabis here have been in the works for a few years now, as part of the government's attempts to diversify the economy. A number of planning applications have been made, including Grow Lab Organics, which was the first company to be offered a conditional licence for export here and hopes to build its production site and headquarters near Ronaldsway. That is due to be put before planning next week and has been recommended for approval. At the start of the current administration, government committed to reaching net zero by 2050, which included a 35% reduction by 2030 and a 45% one by 2035. Mrs Barber, who's also the Minister of Environment, Food and Agriculture, says she's very mindful of the power system, emissions and environmental implications of potential cannabis developments in the Isle of Man. In the written response to Russian MHK Dewan Watterson's question, she says new energy intrusive industries have an impact on the island's emissions as they can increase the amount of power consumed. This is said to be a challenge while our electricity supply is dependent on fossil fuels, as emissions could rise significantly. She says as the cannabis industry is typically very energy and water intensive, in that form it's difficult to see how it can be balanced against our climate goals. However, Ms Barber believes it may be possible for alternative approaches, like using renewable electricity, to be developed to sustainably meet their own energy and water needs without negatively impacting the environment. She adds it's important for the developing cannabis industry to consider a low-emission, sustainable solution which would help protect the island's climate goals.
Amy Griffiths, thank you. More than 1,400 students from the island's schools and UCM were present at the Villa Marina today for the Employment and Skills Fair. Over 60 exhibitors from various sectors were on hand to shine a light on the skills their respective businesses require and other options or career paths that could be taken. Manx Radio has been speaking to Education Minister Daphne Kane and some of the students in attendance today.
There's early years here from the department, UCM obviously. The media are here pretty well represented, whether it's Manx Radio or there's Greenlight TV. The part I haven't gone round yet, we've got some engineering companies, we've got shipping and maritime, steam packet, and I just think when you see the breadth of possibilities, hopefully it will inspire young people and older to think about certain careers. Some of the young people are a bit shy at coming forward to start with, but there's some really enthusiastic employers and people who are working in the industries that they represent, and they are really good at telling a positive story about, if you're working for a third of your waking hours, you really want it to be something that is fulfilling and something you want to do.
My name is Safia Gomez and I'm from Castle Rushen. I think it's pretty good around here. They're really helpful. They give us enough information and they're really nice. You can ask them any question you want and they have the right answers for it.
Did you know what career you want to go into, or did you come in here to find out what options are available, and did you find that you got those questions answered?
I have stuff in mind, but going around here is definitely helping me be more open about my options. I did go into some stuff that I really want to do, and there's stuff that I'm already sure that I'm going to do, but I think it's a big help going around here for my options to be more open.
From the Villa Marina to the Gaiety now, as an event tonight is hoping to find out where the Isle of Man is up to with its target of reaching net zero by 2050. Energy Future Isle of Man is being hosted by the Energy and Sustainability Centre and will see the people responsible for the island's climate goals in conversation, including Deputy Chief Minister Jane Paul Wilson. It's being hosted by Imogen Bogle, presenter of the Fully Charged and Everything Electric shows.
So I've come here to support with an event that's taking place this evening at 7:30pm at the Gaiety Theatre called the Energy Future Isle of Man event. And it's going to be an opportunity to hear from those who are responsible for delivering the net zero plan here on the Isle of Man. An opportunity for people to come and ask questions about what energy security means for the Isle of Man, how do we actually forge that pathway forwards, and also to see the launch of a really exciting app called the Island Power App, IPA for short, not to be confused with the beer. And that's a really cool app which allows people to see different sort of energy scenarios, different combinations of technology, and how might the Isle of Man deliver its net zero targets. I guess it's just a really good opportunity to have very frank and honest conversations around where are we now, where do we need to get to, how do we get there, what are the genuine concerns that people have, and how might we start to address some of those. So I'm really excited to kind of learn a little bit more and to put my questions to the two ministers who are going to be in attendance. And just create that open forum for people to ask their questions. Doors open at 7 o'clock for a 7:30 start. It's £4 per person. And it's going to be, hopefully, a really exciting evening.
23 minutes past 5 now. How about this? A woman whose mum was abandoned near Ramsey as a baby nearly 80 years ago is hopeful she can trace her family's history. Stephanie French was just 6 days old when she was found on the 14th of April 1946, wrapped in brown paper in Buller Glen. She was adopted a few months later and moved to the UK. And while the police at the time weren't able to find out who her birth parents were, her daughter Lorraine is hopeful they've got a step closer to some answers using DNA tracing.
My mum was abandoned in Buller Glen in 1946. They estimated that she was probably about 6 to 7 days old, and it was a group of children that found her. I don't think anybody can really understand what the birth parents were going through. I mean, it was just after the war, so we can't imagine what they were going through to come to that decision. We actually didn't find out until my mum was 57, although she always felt like she didn't belong in her own family. So my mum was a foster parent for mother-baby placements, and she needed a full passport, and she only ever had a bridging part to her birth certificate. So she requested her full birth certificate, and they actually said to her, "We don't have a baby born on this date. Have you tried adoptions?" So she went to see my nan, and the story then came out. She was brought up by a solicitor and his wife, and then obviously she married my dad. They moved to Germany, where I was born, because he was military, and we ended up moving back to Brighton when my dad had left the army, and she lived a very nice life. And the thing that I really always find amazing is the line of work she went into, even though she didn't know her beginnings.
Have you got any clues for the mother's side?
Well, I've been told the family came from Queen's Drive. And actually, when we had a look on the maps, it kind of falls into place because in a car, it is literally a minute's drive to where my mum was found, I believe.
Very interesting. Well, you can listen back to that interview and find more on that story over at manxradio.com. It's 5:25 now, and Manx Radio sports editor Rob Pritchard joins me in the studio with a look at today's sporting news. Faster my Rob.
Faster my Lewis. First off tonight, Isle of Man professional boxers Jay Burden and Jamie Devine will fight on the same card on Merseyside next month. On social media today, Burden has confirmed she'll return to the ring for her final bout of 2024 on Sunday the 15th of December at the Adelphi Hotel in Liverpool. She adds Devine is due to be on the same schedule that evening. The opponents for both Ireland competitors are yet to be confirmed. The Grenade hasn't fought since her professional debut, a points win over Sherry Barnes in April. She had been due to fight in Blackpool in September, but that was called off at the last minute. Elsewhere, it's a quick turnaround for Devine, who was last in action on Sunday the 13th of October, where he extended his 100% pro record to 5 victories with a points win over Lithuanian competitor Simas Volosinas. In hockey, Bakazay have maintained their perfect start in the Mixed Premier League with a 5-3 victory over defending league champions Valkyrie last night. During Wednesday's rescheduled tie, Andrew Whiting and Jamie Brown both netted twice as Backers powered to victory, with Elliot Reid also on the score sheet. But they were made to work for maximum points as Greg Miller, Alex Neil and Ollie Webster all found the net for Valkyries to stay in contention. This latest result sees Bakazay extend their 100% league record this campaign to 7 wins from 7 and move 2 points clear at the top of the standings on 14 points. And finally, the 2025 Isle of Man Golf Championships will now take place at a new venue. Isle of Man Golf Union says the headline event will no longer take place at Peel Golf Club, with the union in a brief statement saying the Western venue is unable to accommodate the occasion. The championship will instead take place in 2025 at Mount Murray on the 21st of June for the qualifiers, the finals on the 29th of June. It's part of a number of alterations to the overall schedule for next year, details of which you can find at manxradio.com.
Manx Radio sports editor Rob Pritchard Grumayed. And that's it from Update for this evening. If there's anything you'd like to listen back to from tonight's programme, you can find it as a podcast on Manx Radio shortly. Up next, Bob Carswell is here with Chaclair, and Chris Kinley is here at 6 o'clock with Greatest Hits. We'll be back with Update at the same time tomorrow.